Most of us are waiting for things to get done, be handled, be settled, get quiet before we allow ourselves to feel good. And I need to tell you, that moment is not coming. I mean, sure, those moments come like once in a blue moon. They are pollinated throughout our life for brief moments. But your life is not ever going to arrive at a place where there are no more problems or distractions or no more noise. Not until you're dead. And waiting to feel good, waiting to feel joy is costing you your health. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. When did joy become something you earn? Think about that for a minute. How many times have you caught yourself thinking, I'll relax when this project is done. I'll have fun when my kids are older, or I'll take care of myself when my kids are older, or I'll take care of myself when things calm down, or when people stop needing me. I'll enjoy my life when I've lost the weight, or finished the thing, or proved my worth. We treat joy like it's a finish line prize. And then we wonder why we feel so depleted and exhausted and unfulfilled. Today, I want to make a strong case for joy, the feel-good, being a biochemical and psychological nutrient. It is a daily non-negotiable for a human to thrive. Not a reward, a requirement. In her book, Burnout, the authors actually, it's two women, Emily and Amelia Nagoski. They write about what's called the human giver syndrome. I love that phrase so much because I think it just says so much in three simple words, the human giver syndrome. It's the cultural conditioning that tells women their worth comes from giving, pleasing, and producing. They argue that many women are so caught in this cycle that they experience joy as unsafe, as something selfish, frivolous, or premature. How sad is that? But their prescription is complete the stress cycle. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through feel-good emotion. Genuine moments of pleasure, connection, and delight. Not as a luxury, but as a physiological necessity for resetting and regulating the nervous system. You know that water is necessary for life, right? What if you could parent your brain to start believing that joy was a necessity for life? And sure, you could live a life without joy, right? But are you really living a life, or are you just tolerating a life? I don't want you to just tolerate life. I want you to milk life. And you can't do that when you don't give yourself permission to feel joy and to feel happiness. So here's the science that matters, right? Joy, laughter, and positive emotion, feel-good emotion, it triggers the release of dopamine, of serotonin, and oxytocin. These are not just feel-good chemicals. These are chemicals that help to regulate our appetite. They support our immune function. They reduce cortisol. They improve our sleep. And they make every other healthy behavior easier to sustain. In other words, joy is not the opposite of discipline. Joy is what makes discipline sustainable. I'm going to say that again because it is such an important piece to retain. Joy is not the opposite of discipline. Joy is what makes discipline sustainable. I'm always saying to my students, like, if you don't love the process, you'll never sustain the process. If you don't find ways of infusing loads of joy into your journey, you will never stay on the journey. So it's not enough to tolerate something if you want to sustain it, right? You have to build a relationship with it, and not just any relationship, a really healthy, joy-filled relationship. When you're running on empty, when you're grinding through, white-knuckling it, surviving, tolerating, your nervous system is in a low-grade threat state. And a nervous system in threat doesn't make great choices. We've talked about this a lot on this show. A nervous system in threat reaches for quick dopamine. It skips the workout. It snaps at people it loves. It cannot think long-term, so it makes very immediate choices. It's very reactive. And in a life or death situation, that's awesome. But with all of your life decisions, that is not awesome. It creates a really messy, unfulfilling life. But joy helps to regulate all of that. Not someday, but today. So here's your practice. Here's your invitation for today. I want you to start thinking of making daily joy deposits into your life. I want you to start thinking of ways to pollinate your life with more joy. Not just at Christmas, not just during the summer, not just on the weekends, but every single day. Because a day without joy is like a day without breath, a day without water, a day without food, a day without human connection, a day without sunlight. It is a nutrient you need every single day, and you need to build it intentionally, right? So think of one thing that brings you genuine delight. Not something that's productive or will help you to improve yourself, but something that's just pure, uncomplicated joy. Maybe it's a song. Maybe it's a walk somewhere beautiful. Maybe it's just drinking coffee and really giving yourself permission to be all in with it. Or a piece of chocolate cake. That would be my choice. Or just sitting with my dog, right? And loving on her. A conversation that makes you laugh. A meal you can actually savor. A piece of art that you don't just like brush past, but you really take in. So joy doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be effortful. It just has to be real. And it has to become a non-negotiable, meaning it's not the first thing that gets cut out when life gets busy. In fact, I would argue that it's all the more important to seek out joy when life gets busy. And I know it feels so hard and they feel so in conflict with one another, but that's when you need it the most, right? Like one of my relatives used to say, oh, people always go to church when things are going well, but then when life gets crazy and life throws someone a lot of curveballs, it's like they stop going to church, but that's when they need it the most. And there's a lot of truth to that. Joy is not your reward for a life well managed. It is how you manage your life well. Again, I'm going to say that again because you need to hear it. Sear it on your brain. Let it be the last thing you hear from this episode today. Joy is not your reward for a life well managed. It is part of how you manage your life well. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.